15 of 19 big banks passed phony stress test. But here's the only bank you should trust. Some highly suspicious information came out of the Federal Reserve recently, and I don't want to let it go unchallenged. It seems to be part of an unprecedented media campaign from Fed Chair Bernanke. The campaign started with the first press conference ever held by a Fed chair, followed by multiple town halls, and now even classroom lectures broadcast around the world defending the Fed's existence and recent actions. So forgive me for being just a bit skeptical when a press release from the Fed highlights 15 of 19 banks passing a so-called stress test. I'm just not buying it. Especially when you look at the way these stress tests were put together, it just becomes more clear. It's nothing more than government propaganda. The stress tests were supposed to see if banks could weather another crisis with enough capital left over to continue lending. To do this, the Fed asks what would happen if the stock market drops 50%, home prices fall another 21%, unemployment jumps to 13%, and interest rates stay at record lows. In other words, the Federal Reserve wanted to see if banks could survive the last crash. But that's absolutely worthless. The only thing I'm interested in is the next crash. And it flies, the housing bubble already burst. It's not going to happen again. So how should the Fed be stress testing the banks? That's easy. The same economists who predicted the housing bubble long before it happened, the only economists worth listening to, are in agreement that the next crash will come from a bond bubble as heard in by skyrocketing interest rates, not record low interest rates. A real stress test would leave just one bank standing. So what would happen to the 19 banks in a world of skyrocketing interest rates? They'd completely collapse. The major banks are so over-leveraged on cheap short-term financing that if they're ever forced to refinance during a time of high interest rates, their weak positions would crumble to pieces. And not just for the banks, but for the depositors too. The FDIC does not have nearly enough cash on hand to repay the millions of depositors who would be wiped out by bank failures, and neither does the United States Treasury. That's why the rich are seeking out an alternative bank, the bank of you. The rich aren't putting their money in troubled banks on the verge of collapse. Instead, they are using an innovative banking technique that's safe, produces 6 to 10% returns, and is full of tax benefits. It also works as a fantastic retirement account. If your founder, Mike Dillard, sleeps great knowing that the Bank of You will allow him to pull out $100,000 per month tax-free when he retires. And you can sleep great at night too when you find out more about the Bank of You by becoming an Elevation Group member. So click below to join the Elevation Group now. Mike recently sat down with a financial strategist who is used to advise multimillionaires on how to preserve and grow their wealth. And this time he agreed to share the Wealthiest Bank of You strategy with the Elevation Group members. The first thing you'll learn is that it's not a real bank. You don't have to buy a branch building, hire tellers, or get approved by the Treasury Department. So it has none of the drawbacks of a normal bank and all the benefits. See for yourself. This bank cannot be over-leveraged by bonus-happy executives. It will never be exposed to mortgage defaults, and it will operate stress-free in a world of higher interest rates. You get to decide when you are approved for a loan. Heck, it's your bank. You call the shots. And since you own the bank, any interest paid goes straight back into your account. Not to mention its tax-deferred investment vehicle. So if you borrow money from the Bank of You and make a return, there are no taxes to pay now, or even when you pull the money out later. And the best part is, while most commercial banks are paying you next to zero interest for keeping your money with them, the Bank of You can produce a steady 6 to 10% annual rate for return. So anyone worried about their financial future in a rocky economy needs to find out more about starting a Bank of You. Mike has been making deposits into his own bank for years now. It's his insurance policy for protecting and growing wealth regardless of the future events. If this is a black box strategy of the rich you'd like to take advantage of, then you need to join us and become an Elevation Group member now. Click below to join the Elevation Group now. The greatest wealth transfer in history is on our doorstep. The Bank of You is just one way to capture your share of the wealth. If you want to discover it and other black box investment strategies the ultra-rich are using today, then become a member of the Elevation Group now. We have well over 10,000 like-minded members dealing with the same questions you are, and we'd love for you to join us. When you click the link below and join, you'll get instant online access to nearly 2 years of interviews filled with black box strategies of the ultra-rich. Click below to join the Elevation Group now.